Hello everyone, I'm Professor Plank. I respond to various theological and ideological questions and claims from a rationalistic and naturalistic approach in an effort to give and explain the opposite viewpoint and help to balance the conversation. Today we're looking at a video from a channel called Humble Believer called The Atheists Are Liars. Yes, that's right. The Atheists Are Liars. This video was published 7 years ago, has 58,000 views to it, and still retains the title, The Atheists Are Liars. It is literally the work of 30 seconds to edit your video's title to correct grammar mistakes. They even made a more graphic thumbnail for the video that repeats the same grammar mistake. And this is still an active channel to this day. It's not like they've gone inactive and don't update any of their stuff anymore. So at any point, they could correct it and yet choose not to. So easy to turn it into Atheists Are Liars, or The Atheist is a Liar. But no. I'm almost more offended by the poor grammar than I am at the claim that I am fundamentally dishonest because of my lack of a belief in God. Especially when going from being religious to being an atheist is an inherently honest position. I mean, I couldn't keep lying to myself about holding a belief that I truly no longer held. I felt, and still feel, that honesty with oneself and with others was more important than dogmatic loyalty to an unsubstantiated belief system. But, at any rate, let's see what our speaker, Hamza Yusuf, has to say about the dishonest nature of atheists.
My 15-year-old was studying biology and his teacher was an atheist. And he came and told me that he was studying biology and he said that his teacher said that we can explain life without God. And I said that biologists should not interfere with cosmology. A biologist should stay in biology and not start talking about cosmology, because that's another science.
Your child's teacher was not getting involved in cosmology with that statement. They were sticking to biology. They simply said that biology could be explained without God. Direct quote of what you claim the teacher said. We can explain life without God. They were talking strictly about biology with that statement. They were talking about the origins of life, not the origins of the cosmos. So they were not at all talking about cosmology. Cosmology being the study of the origins of the universe. They weren't talking at all about the universe. They were talking about life, which is biology. Secondly, if your child is 15, this teacher was obviously their high school science teacher. It's likely that they teach a variety of sciences. I mean, I remember my high school days. I took a class called General Science, which covered many things, from chemistry to biology, astronomy to engineering, and so forth. There were then more specialized classes after that, such as life sciences or chemistry classes, but they were higher-level science classes that one wouldn't take until they were 17, 18, something like that. But they too were taught by that same teacher who taught general science. High school science teachers are required to wear several hats in the various sciences, and it's because they are only supposed to be teaching the basics of these studies to their teenage students. So it's likely that this teacher in question was as much of a cosmologist as they were a biologist. But again, it doesn't really matter since they didn't say anything cosmology related in the first place.
And it reminded me of the joke about the biologists that meet God, and God asked them what they're up to, and they said, well, we've gotten rid of you. And God asked the biologists, how did you get rid of me? And they said, well, we can explain how we got here without you. And he said, well, how would you do that? They said, well, first we take some cosmic dust. And God says, no, wait a second, get your own dust. Right?
I found something else more offensive than the claim that atheists are liars. Calling that a joke. I'm offended on behalf of comedians everywhere and on behalf of the very concept of humor. Not to overly dissect what you claim is a joke, but why would someone who is meeting God, speaking to God directly, still be an atheist? Well, even worse than that, you started off your joke saying a biologist meets God. You didn't even say they were an atheist. There are plenty of biologists who are not atheists. Even evolutionary biologists who are not atheists. But anyway, the insanity of being face-to-face with God and saying, we've proven you don't exist, or we've gotten rid of you, when talking directly to God, even for the purposes of a supposed joke, is ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, great joke, man. You're a laugh riot.
You see, because where did it all start? Where did we come from? Even if evolution explained how we have evolved as a species, it doesn't explain where the original material came from. Man cannot bring anything into existence from nothing.
Nor does evolution even attempt to explain where the original material came from. Those are two completely different fields of study. Evolution only charts changes in allele frequencies over time. It explains the diversification of life on this planet and how one creature changes over a long period of time into other creatures. It does not attempt to explain the origins of life at all. And it certainly does not attempt to explain where the universe itself came from. Those are totally different areas of science. And saying man cannot bring anything into existence from nothing is extra nonsensical when talking about evolution, the origins of life, or the origins of the universe. All of those things happened and were already happening long before man ever came on the scene. Our arrival is the last thing in these order of events. It's not about man bringing the universe into existence from nothing. It's about whether the formation of the universe happened naturally or was directed by a supernatural, metaphysical, unproven magical entity. A notion that is itself far funnier than your earlier attempt at humor.
He makes organs from already existing cells. The cloning comes from already existing cells. He's now in stem cell research and doing all of these things. Everything that he makes has pre-existing materials. We cannot make anything out of nothing. It's impossible for humans to do that because nothing comes from nothing.
Atheists are not the ones claiming that the universe came into existence out of nothing. That is a religious notion. It says in the Quran, He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. Whenever He decrees a matter, He merely says, be, and it is. That sounds an awful lot like in this version of the beginning of the universe, there was nothing, and God just spoke, and the universe came into being from nothing. The secular, non-theist conception of the origin of the universe, which has all of the scientific backing and 100% of the cosmological evidence in its corner, by the way, is the Big Bang, which does not posit that the universe came from nothing. The Big Bang was not the creation of the universe out of nothing. It was the expansion of the current presentation of our universe from an initial state of high density and temperature.
And this is why my own teacher said, كَذَبَ الْمُلْحِدُونَ. The atheists are liars.
So it's not just the title and the thumbnail of this video that have poor grammar, but Hamza himself, as well as his teacher apparently. If you have a teacher who can't get a sentence with 4 words in it grammatically correct, you've got a bad teacher.
Hi, everyone. If I could just say a few words, I'd be a better public speaker.
العدم لا يوجد الوجود. Non-existence cannot bring existence. الفوضى لا يكون النظام. Anarchy or chaos cannot bring order into existence. الجهل لا يلد العلم. Ignorance cannot bring knowledge into existence.
Well, sure it can. When we are born, we're ignorant of most things. We're born with some inherent instinctual knowledge, like knowing how to eat or to recoil from something painful. But most things that we come to know later on, we are ignorant of at birth, and it is only through experience that we learn and gain knowledge. And much of it is self-taught. Like, we have to learn for ourselves what things are dangerous and will cause pain, and what things are comforting. We have to learn for ourselves how to focus our attention on sounds or sights. These things aren't explained to us because, of course, at that time, we don't understand language, so it can't be explained to us. Our gradual understanding of spoken language itself is also knowledge that we come to through initial ignorance. In fact, beginning with an initial state of ignorance and then growing out of it into knowledge is literally the way all discoveries work. Every scientific discovery happened through initial ignorance, growing naturally into understanding. Claiming that knowledge can only come from knowledge is nonsensical.
And then he said, إنما هي انتكاس عقلي كمن يمشي على رأسه ورجلاه في الهواء. This is the inversion, this is an intellectual inversion of reality, like somebody who's walking on his head and his feet are in the air. That this is something that humans have never believed. And this argument now of the modern atheists, this is an ancient argument. Atheists have always been around.
Whoa, stop right there. Back that up and repeat that, please.
That this is something that humans have never believed. This is an ancient argument. Atheists have always been around.
Well, which is it, pal? Humans have never believed in atheism, which is actually a lack of a belief, or have atheists been around forever? You can't have it both ways, Hamza.
In fact, atheists were actually more sophisticated 100 years ago than they are today. And this is the truth, because 100 years ago they were well versed in philology, like Nietzsche, they were profound philosophers. Even at the time of Socrates, there were atheists. People forget that Marx, who was an atheist, he did his PhD dissertation was on the materialists, the Greek materialists. So he had studied materialistic philosophy. So this argument, this modern argument, is not a new argument. It's a very old argument, and our scholars dealt with this argument extensively, but people don't read their books anymore.
Of course it's an old argument. People have been debating not just the nature of God, but the very existence of God for as long as there's been a concept of God. And you cannot argue about the existence of God without there being those who take the position of God not existing. So yeah, obviously atheism is not new. Who's claiming that it is? And what would the benefit be of it being new? You're saying it's not new as if the fact that atheism is old means that it's a foolish notion. Like, if atheism were a new trend, that would lend credence to it, give it some additional validity. But since it's old, since atheism has been around forever, that it's somehow less credible. Well, you know what else is not exactly new? What else has been around since ancient times and philologers have been talking about since the ancient Greeks and even before that? Religion. Any basic belief in God. That's not new either. So if being an old notion is somehow a red mark against atheism, it's also a red mark for any kind of theism as well. But the truth is that it's not about the age of an idea, notion, perspective, or belief. After all, cooperation with fellow human beings in order to establish a society or community is about the most basic and oldest idea humans have ever had. That notion even predates Homo sapiens, and it's worked out pretty well all the way up until today. When it comes to ideas, beliefs, notions, or perspectives, what matters is what works, what stands the test of time, and what is found to accurately comport with reality. And it's that last one, the accurately comporting with reality, that religion tends to have a fairly bad track record with.
And one of the simplistic views of some of these modern Muslims that deny theology and the tradition of theology, they have no response to these new atheists. They have no response other than to say kuffar.
For non-Muslims or those unfamiliar with the term, kuffar is an Arabic term for non-believers or those who reject or disbelieve in God. For a Muslim to call a non-Muslim that is basically a dismissal of them. It's like waving your hand at them and going, "Oh, you're a non-believer, you don't matter," and then walking away.
But this is not enough, because Muslims have always dealt with these things intellectually in a tradition called Radd al-Shubuhat, which is refutation of the obfuscations that are brought out by the atheists. So it's important for us to remember that we were created to adore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but to know Him through ma'rifah, and this is through the intellect, first and foremost. And our intellect is a spiritual concept. The intellect is immaterial. It's not of this world. And this is why we don't know where we go when we dream, but we know that we leave this place and we enter into another realm, because we're in a realm that's immaterial.
So a bunch of unsubstantiated claims about intelligence being immaterial and something ethereal, something of the spirit, and then your supposed proof for that is to claim that we dream? And when we dream, we go into some kind of a spiritual realm?
So that recurring nightmare where I'm running naked from a clown.
Somewhere out there. It's real.
Somewhere out there.
For starters, intelligence and dreams are not really the same thing, and are only vaguely connected in that they're both things that have to do directly with the brain. But so is feeling the desire to pee, and I wouldn't call that connected to intelligence either. Intelligence is the cognitive process of mentally coalescing various data in order to make decisions and predictions about the world around you. It's a conscious process. Dreams, on the other hand, are unconscious mental images, emotions, and sensations that our brain creates automatically. They're basically a byproduct of having imaginations and memories, and in general, conscious control over that imagination. Then when we're unconscious and our conscious control of our minds is turned off, our minds display various concocted thoughts, ideas, memories, feelings, and they do this to us automatically. That's a quick and dirty, rather unspecific explanation of the process. Bit more in depth, Dr. Michelle Drerup says that dreaming has much to do with memory consolidation. She says that dreaming may represent important cognitive functioning. Brain activity that occurs when we're dreaming is similar to the memory processing brain activity we experience when we're awake. It's just an autonomic function of our brains when our consciousness is shut off. Not some supernatural exploration of a spiritual realm. You've watched Little Nemo one too many times, Hamza.
Spiders, they want me to tap dance. I don't want to tap dance.
You tell those spiders wrong.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell.
The fact that you think every dream of tap-dancing spiders is Allah taking your soul on some kind of existential spiritual journey is about the most absurd thing you've said in this entire video. And it's that joke that the video ends on. So that's Hamza Yousef's take on The Atheists Are Liars. And funnily enough, he never actually addressed or even accused atheists of being dishonest anywhere in this video. He starts off talking about how biologists shouldn't talk about cosmology, even though the story he uses to illustrate that does not include a biologist talking about cosmology. Then goes into how something can't come from nothing, even though atheists don't claim this, while theists often do. Then talked about how atheism is an ancient notion. Then into how dreams are magical. Where exactly did he dwell on or explain the notion that atheists are being dishonest? I know he said it at one point when he was quoting his former teacher, but then he blasted right past it with no explanation of it at all. So overall, a very scatterbrained and poorly thought out diatribe from someone who doesn't seem to have that good of a handle on his own arguments, if you can even call this video an argument for anything. So that is where we will leave things for today. So thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe so you'll always be notified when a new video comes out. Until next time, I'm Professor Plink reminding you to keep striving for greater understanding. It's the best way to get wherever you want to go.